Hello legends, the England squad has been announced. Here's my reaction. Hello legends, it's your boy Link, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the England squad for the 2022 World Cup in questionable Qatar. But we're not going to talk about that today because that could be a whole video in itself. Today we're just going to talk about who Gareth Southgate has selected. So let's have a look. In goal, I don't think there was any other three. It's always going to be Pickford. It's always going to be Pope. It's always going to be Ramsdale. The only other one I think you could maybe introduce into that is Dean Henderson, because especially that game against Liverpool, that was scary how good he was. But I don't think you can argue with Gareth Southgate's goalkeeper selections. As much as I dislike Gareth Southgate and I don't like his opinions, I'm not going to disagree with him just for the hell of it. In defence, the big one, TAA, Trent Alexander-Arnold, is going to be the scouser in our team. He's going to be the main man. He probably won't even play, but he's in the squad, which is a big improvement on what I thought Southgate would do. Reece James' injury helped. Part of me it's a bit sweet because part of me thinks I would have liked Trent to have a month off, but I know he wants to go to the World Cup. He wants to go lift that World Cup, so let's hope it helps. So the rest of the defenders, Connor Cody, some people are saying that's a surprise. I don't think it is, especially with playing a back three. And all the reports in the England squad are that he is so good for the vibe and the atmosphere and the dressing room that you couldn't not pick him even if you don't want to play him. Eric Dier makes it. I think that was always going to happen. Southgate seems to love the guy. He's playing very well under Antonio Conte right now. And he can play CDM as well. Like he can play CDM, no problem. And that's an option because England are very light in centre midfield. Harry Maguire. Now this is one of them where I think you've got to pick players either based on their England form or based on their club form, or a combination of the two. And I personally, I just don't like Harry Maguire. I don't rate Harry Maguire. I never have. I never probably will. He just doesn't do it for me. And I like my football philosophy, like my belief of football is that you play a high line, you press, you win the ball high up, you attack again, you play football. And I don't think you can do that with Maguire. I just think he lacks the pace and the ability to do it, and I don't know. I just wouldn't go there. Luke Shaw, obvious left back selection. I think especially with injuries to Chilwell. John Stones, probably the best English centre half, was always going to go. Kieran Trippier, I think has to go. He's probably the best in form right back if you look at the form book. I don't think he's the best English right back. I think that's Trent. I think Trent is absolutely world class. I think he's one of few England players that you could debate in that bracket. But I probably would play Trippier left back because I think he's better than Shaw. And I think, especially against some of these weaker teams, you're going to have so much possession. Against some of these weaker teams, you're going to have so much possession. You're going to dominate the ball. Why not have Trippier left back whipping in swinger crosses, Trent right back knocking in out swinger crosses, Harry Kane would have a field day. Just create chances. I know Southgate likes this 5-2-3 nonsense. Please, just play 4-3-3 and let's play offensive football because we aren't blessed with good defenders. And lots of people say, well, we don't have the defence to play for. But if you don't have the best defence, you win football games by scoring the most goals. Let's not be boring and be like, oh, let's play a back five because none of our centre-backs are good enough. I think a couple of our centre-backs are good enough to play a back four, and I think it would work, and that's what I would do. I definitely would play. I'd play 4-3-3 with the one sitting the way that Liverpool normally shape up under Klopp. Obviously, last few weeks it's been different, but yeah, I'd play with Rice sitting, and then Bellingham, who's obviously in the squad as well, and then an attacking centre midfielder with Bellingham, someone who's more attacking. Just going over the last defenders, you've got Kyle Walker, who again he's always going to be included because I don't know, he's got photos of Gareth Southgate or something. He is good, Walker. He is good, and I think his ability to play as that right centre back in a back three means he's always going to be there. And the last defender included is Ben White. Now, I would like Ben White to go. I think Ben White should go. I think he's been in brilliant form for Arsenal. His ability to play right back. I wouldn't play him right wing back personally. I think that's just overkill defensively. But Southgate likes to defend. But in the right of a back three, he could be very good as well. Especially if you want to play Trent and you want to cover for Trent's defensive. Some people would say like capability, but he's more than capable. He's the best right back in the world. He is. Like, he's in like a record-breaking Liverpool defence that have broke like so many defensive records, like clean sheets in the Champions League season, I think. Like, don't at me, but Trent's the one. So that means, in terms of defenders, we'll talk about who got left out. Tomori. Let's talk about Tomori. You're playing in Serie A, which is obviously it's a famous league for being good defensively, and you're keeping clean sheets all the time, and you're playing brilliant, and you're getting FIFA Team of the Week cards and Team of the Season cards, and all these different rewards and accolades from people all around the world. But Gareth Southgate goes, no. I'm sorry for Kayo. You're not on my squad. And the other one that I would have took, who's not there, that I do just want to mention, is Joe Gomez. Now, I know there's a big agenda about Joe Gomez being awful because of one pass he played back to Alisson where Alisson slips and we concede, and people are like, oh, that's Joe Gomez's mistake. Well, it is. It's not the best pass, but if Alisson doesn't slip, you forget that ever happened. You really do. And people also forget that Joe Gomez plays next to Van Dijk. People deliberately go against Joe Gomez. Deliberately. Like Erling Haaland, he's frightened of Van Dijk. Van Dijk is so good, Erling Haaland's frightened of him. So Erling Haaland says, I'm going to go play against Joe Gomez. Joe Gomez literally just got his pocket and went, I'll put Haaland in there. And he's still there now. So yeah, I would personally take Joe Gomez, and he can play right back if you want to. Everyone's moaning about Trippier and Trent being like attacking right backs who can't defend. Play Gomez there then. If you want to do that, play Gomez. If you want pace to cover for them from centre back, play Gomez. He's like quick. Same with Tomori. Gomez, Tomori. If you're gonna play a back three, Gomez right centre back, Stones in the centre, and Tomori left centre back. There's so much pace in there, so much quality. But I'm not Gareth Southgate, so my opinion doesn't matter really. Obviously, let me know what you guys think as we go through this in the comments down below. I'd love to see what you all think of it. Midfielders, now they've included on the FA list, they've called it 6. It's Jude Bellingham, obvious. Declan Rice, obvious. I think they're the two that are guaranteed to start. Jordan Henderson, obviously vice-captain. Pretty obvious. Calvin Phillips. Now, he's not playing for City. He's got injuries. I don't know. I probably wouldn't have took him myself. Mason Mount. I think you have to take him. He's been good for England, but he's lacked for Chelsea. And the last one is Conor Gallagher. Yeah, I think he's someone with real potential. Is he quite, let's go to the World Cup ready? I think Harvey Elliott's better. I'll be honest. I'll throw it out there. I think Harvey Elliott's better. If we're going to take a young player with like a view to the future as well, Eze is an absolute baller. So I think Elliott or Eze would be the one that I would take. If you're going to go for like a youngster, but I'm not mad about it because Gallagher is good. I'm not angry at Southgate for that in particular. We move on to the forwards. Now, the FA has listed these kind of weirdly, so I'm going to start with the ones that are more kind of like midfielders and wingers, and then we'll do kind of like your strikers, your number 9s at the end. So you have Phil Foden, obviously brilliant form for City, playing world-class football. He's someone I think you have to take. I don't think there's anyone in the world would be like, no, don't take Foden. Jack Grealish, it creates a lot of debate because he's quality, but he's not playing to his ability level. So I don't know. Don't know how I feel with Jack Grealish. James Maddison, which is a surprise inclusion to a degree because for some reason he hasn't been in the squad, even though he's been like the best English player this year. I think, has he been the best English player, would you say? Let me know who you think's been the best English player this season so far. I think you could make a good case for him. Then you have Bukayo Saka, who I like that. I like the options because he can also play centre mid. He's done a good job there, but he's also done a really, really good job as a wing back. And I know some people are like, he can't defend good enough to be wing back. But again, why are we obsessed with how good people can defend and not how good they can play football? It's all about defence. Like, oh, it bores me to tears. I think the English attitude towards like football is like, oh, but he can defend better. Like, I remember when Liverpool had Xabi Alonso, people didn't say he's a good defensive midfielder because like others were better at defending. But it's Xabi Alonso, and he can play like 70-yard passes for a laugh and score from 60 yards and people. Anyway, the last one of those sort of wingers rather than strikers is Raheem Sterling, who for me is him and Trent. Sterling and Trent, I think, are the best two English players. And I know you'll all say, oh, it's because they play for Liverpool. I don't like Sterling. We fell out. When Sterling left Liverpool, the affection died. And because he went to City, it died in an even bigger way. And because he celebrates when he scores against Liverpool, it's, yeah. I don't like Sterling. I don't actually... That love of him left the minute he left. Like, because of the manner he left and everything. But I think he's like him. I think honestly you've got him, Kane and Trent are the only three who I would say are definitely world class. And then I think you've got Rice and Bellingham. You could probably try and argue it. I think Rice, Bellingham, you could probably argue it. I think you've got Foden and Grealish are sort of below that in terms of potential, like overall, like their potential ability. But I don't think in terms of world class there's anyone else that you could argue for. Striker wise, we have Callum Wilson, Marcus Rashford, Harry Kane. Kane was always going to go. Rashford was always going to go based on his England form and based on Southgate's like love for the guy. But Rashford this season has been very poor, and I think it's almost, it's not a surprise inclusion because it's what I expected, but it's maybe not what I would have done. Callum Wilson was sort of like the best of the rest. Personally, I like Tammy Abraham. I like Tammy Abraham. Ivan Toney. I probably prefer both of those to Wilson, to be honest. I think Toney, not taking Toney could be something we argue about if there's a penalty shootout for sure. But let me know what you think of Southgate's squad. Now let's have a look at mine. So mine and Gareth Southgate's squads actually have come out pretty similar if you look. There's 4 players different. So I did this at 10:39, I think it was this morning, like 11 o'clock this morning. I started about 10 this morning. So I wanted to do it today because I wanted to do it based on like now and what I know about injuries and stuff, so it's not outdated. But then I also want to, you know, I didn't film obviously like my projection until it got announced so we can compare the two and I can talk about why I've maybe chose what Southgate hasn't. So he has selected 4 players that I didn't pick. The first one is Maguire. Instead of Maguire, I've got Tomori. Now I think Tomori is just better. I think he's just better, but I get taking Maguire for what he's done for England. I probably wouldn't have that sort of sentiment myself because I think Tomori has got so much potential and he's got so much pace, and I would want to play a more aggressive high line. If you look at like the forward players in this team, you know, you're playing Tottenham players that press a lot, Arsenal players that press fantastically, especially under Arteta this year, Man City players that really press the ball, Liverpool players that press the ball. That's like probably 8 of your squad players are going to come from them teams, like your starting 11, and they all press and get up the pitch. So why wouldn't you play that way? Anyway, next person he picked that I didn't is Phillips. Now one thing I'll throw in here, I would have picked Calvin Phillips if he'd been fit and playing for City. Southgate probably knows more about how fit Calvin Phillips is than I do, which is a bit like the Brazil Richarlison thing. Like, I like Firmino more. I would rather they pick Firmino, but you know, Richarlison's supposedly injured, but the Brazil manager's going to know more about what Richarlison can contribute than I will, because he can pick up the phone and be like, You all right, mate? I haven't included Phillips because I thought I was worried about the fitness and the injuries and stuff. And I also fancy taking an extra centre-back if we're going to play with a back three. Because I also sort of see, in my squad, I see Cody and Dyer as sort of potential CDMs in the six. Because I would play like a midfield three. I'd have like your Liverpool sort of trident, you know, where you've got your sort of sitter would be Rice, and then you'd have Bellingham, and then you'd have an attacking one. And I think sitting in for that Rice role, you know, you could put Cody in there, you could put Dyer in there. But also, if you wanted to just shore things up at the end, you could chuck one of them in front of the back four as well as Rice, or you could chuck one of them in at centre back and change to a five. So personally, I like the idea of either of them sitting in front of the back four. I have heard that Ben White can do that, but it's not. I don't think I've ever watched him actually play that role, so I couldn't really comment. But he can cover right back. Gomez can cover right back. Trippier can cover left back. Gomez played a lot of games for Liverpool at left back. Like, people forget that as well. Gomez has played a crazy amount of games at left back for Liverpool, and especially if you were playing against a left-footed right winger that wants to cut inside, Gomez's right foot is then going to be against their left foot. He's going to be on his strong side. It's a good defensive option if you've, you know, Salah's not at the World Cup, but if Salah was there, you would really fancy Joe Gomez to do a job. Next is the Elliot Gallagher one. We've already discussed that. You're taking a sort of player with potential and who you believe in. I think Gallagher's not. I can't argue with it. I can't actually argue with that one. Elliot's my preference. I think Elliot has the higher ceiling of the two, but Gallagher might be a touch more ready. So I get it. The last one's probably the most controversial one because he's gone for Callum Wilson. I've gone for Tammy Abraham. And one thing I will add, I actually watch a lot of Serie A, and I think it skews people's bias a bit. You know, like, I watch a lot of Liverpool, which means I understand what people that play for Liverpool are capable of better than you probably do. If you don't support Liverpool, you're not interested in Liverpool. I'd probably watch more Serie A than your average English person because I've just always enjoyed the sort of nostalgia, and I've got like a very loose trickle of Italian heritage, so it sort of feels homely in some weird kind of way. But basically, I think that does lean me towards Serie A, but I also think we have a bias against Serie A, and like Tomori and Abraham should, in my opinion, both go. I think you could even make an argument in terms of my squad. If you don't think Elliot's ready, I think you could even make an argument for not taking Elliot and then taking Ivan Toney because you want his penalty taking ability as well as his option to bring off the bench. I think Abraham as well. My other thought process is if you look at Callum Wilson, Ivan Toney, Tammy Abraham, in terms of like their profile, who's most like Harry Kane? And I think you then get into a debate between Toney and Abraham. I think Toney probably in terms of the way he plays, you know, he drops short and creates play sometimes as well as running them behind. But I think Abraham is that sort of target man style. So yeah, I personally would say that for me was the decision between Abraham and Toney. And I think Callum Wilson's slightly below their level. But that's the one that sparked the biggest debates. But in my squad, if you don't think Elliot's ready, you could take Toney and Abraham. Or maybe even Toney and Wilson if you want a different option. But yeah, I was very close with Ivan Toney. And the other person I want to mention who missed out in my squad, who wasn't even in Southgate's thoughts, is Chris Smalling. Now, I know he wasn't supposed to be the best player in the world at United and stuff, but he was so good in Serie A. He's been so good. And he could play in a high line, and he's tall, and he wins headers, and he scores goals. And he's just like a better Harry Maguire. He genuinely, like, if you ask any United fan that goes every week, if you could swap Harry Maguire for Chris Smalling tomorrow, and we'll give you the money back, they'd all snap your hand off. But I think most United fans, if you said, I'll swap you Maguire for Chris Smalling, they would take Chris Smalling back, even if they didn't get that £80 million back. I just think United fans would. And most United fans I've spoke to, that's their opinion. But if you're a United fan and you have a different opinion, let me know in the comments down below. And if you're not a United fan, let me know what you think of Smalling versus Maguire. Who's better? in general, and also like for England, I get that England is different. Like David Beckham's England form is better than Real Madrid form and stuff, and I get that. There's certain players who they look like something else when they play for their national team. Like they just look like another level. But there's also players that you have the reverse effect of that as well. So that's something to consider. But let me know who you would take in your 26. I can't wait to see all your 26s. I'll try and reply in the comments and let you know what I think. And I'd love to know your sort of tactical views on the formation. What would you start? My starting 11 would be... Let's check my list. I'd play 4-3-3. I would start with, this is controversial, straight away. I would start with Ramsdale. Now, he's top of the league. Arsenal are flying. But I think, see, and this is about how I want to play. For me, Ramsdale is the best at playing the ball out of those options by just light years. So I would go for Ramsdale. I'd play a back four. Yep, my four. I'd play Trippier left back. Then I'd play John Stones and Joe Gomez with Trent Alexander-Arnold right back. Because we're going to have loads of the ball. So we're going to have a high line. Stones isn't the paciest for a high line, but he does play in that sort of system at City when he plays. Gomez has got the recovery pace. Trippier is good defensively anyway. I don't think you're really worrying about Stones having to cover him. And we're going to have a lot of possession. I think that back four is so good for possession that it just makes sense. Then I'd have Bellingham sat in front of... No, sorry. Then I would have Declan Rice, who is the best English defensive midfielder. And I think, based on Fabinho's recent poor form, and he might be better than anyone else in that position. Rice might be the best. And I don't want to admit it. But he might be. But anyway, in front of him, I would go for Bellingham and a kind of like attacking one, like a number 8 that can sort of play as a 10. That's what I'd be looking at, like a Maddison or a Mount or a Harvey Elliott, like that sort of Foden. I think Foden is one I'd really consider for that, because I like the idea of pace out wide, especially with Kane. Because Kane's going to come short and then you want your pace wide. So I've just revealed that we'll play Kane. So I'll go for Foden. Foden's my selection. I'm sorry, Jordan Henderson, by the way. I absolutely love you and you're the captain. And I don't want to leave you out, but I'm actually trying to be sensible with this and not just pick like a Liverpool 11, because we could do that. Get Robbie Fowler out of retirement and chuck him up top with Peter Crouch. I would play Sterling 100%. I think there's a case for Saka. I think there's a real case for Saka right midfield. I think especially if you're playing Trent right back. I think Saka and Trent would link up nice, and I also think of the winger options, Saka works really hard and he's defensively going to be the best of those, so that's going to compensate for Trent, and there's going to be that balance. Yeah, I'm going for Saka, but I think it's another one where in terms of your starting 11, there's horses for courses. That's probably like the big game 11. But then when you're playing like Saudi Arabia, I might be tempted to pull Saka out and play Foden and a Grealish, or maybe even a Sancho. You want goal for it, don't you? So yeah, I think Saka's goal contributions are good, by the way. I don't want to like. I'm not dismissing that, but I just feel he's a bit more defensive. He's played more defensive positions. He's played as a wing back. He's played as more of a right midfielder than a right winger as well, and I think that's something to consider. But Saka can definitely play right wing, and especially in a big game, if I was playing Trent right back, Saka, I'd probably move Bellingham to the right of the midfield three and play Foden as the left one. So you've got Bellingham working with Trent and Saka. That's what I'd go for. So yeah, let me know your England teams. I want to know what you guys think. Are you excited for the World Cup? I'm getting excited. Check out my World Cup sticker book video where I started up my World Cup sticker book. I've been Link. You have been one of my legends. Thank you so much for watching. I only have one thing left to say. It's coming home. Real soon. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. If you've enjoyed that, you can click up here and you can watch another video of mine. Or if you really love it, if you really, really love it, or even if you just like it a little bit, go down here and subscribe to the channel. It means you'll never ever miss what is coming up real soon.